Hello, welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
What's up? How's everybody doing? We're back. I know.
Back.
Seems like forever, but we did record for the Patreon people. But, you know, we're not going to jump into advertising that too much right away. If you want to listen, go over to True Crime Guys Patreon page and figure that out.
Patreon.com/TrueCrimeGuys.
I do want to make a quick public service announcement that time changes suck.
Yes, they do.
The whole spring forward thing, fuck off. Don't like it.
Get out of here.
Fallback is okay. That one,
Yeah.
you know.
Fallback
right.
is also welcome. Why don't we just always fall back?
That works for me. Fall back, fall forward, fall everything. Spring back.
time.
Spring back, fall back.
No. Right.
Roll back prices, Walmart.
Why don't we ever fall forward? You know, maybe that would make people feel better about it. If we started saying, no, I'm going to fall forward this weekend. That sounds a lot easier than springing. It's like springing.
I say we just... If my goal in life is maybe we get this podcast big enough to where we can just make our own fucking clock and we're just like, you know, I don't even care. Like, I think, you know, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock sounds better to me. I'm just going to change the clock real quick.
Is that
I don't have work to be at on Monday. It's fine.
Right? Is that going to be 9 o'clock TCG time? Yeah,
right.
It is. Okay, cool.
We really, I've realized we really like are beholden to the clock. Like no matter what even like the sun says, you know, like the sun change. We change the clock. The sun is still out late into the night, but yeah, we're like, I gotta go to bed. The clock says it's 8:30. I gotta go to bed because I gotta be up early for work.
Right.
It's all about getting up for that almighty dollar.
That's right. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, man. For a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a bone to pick with society as far as that, because it is some old school shit. I don't even think we need to change the clocks anymore, but you know that's
just
a whole
leave
other
them.
day.
Like next time we fall back, you know what? Or just leave them like they are right now. Just that way you still get the most daylight in the summer. You know what I'm saying? Just leave
Right.
it.
Yeah.
It's just Arizona's got it figured out, right? Don't they? They don't change, do they?
I don't think Arizona does, and they're so close to where I live in southern Nevada. It's like
weird,
right there.
Right? That's weird. There's a couple other states I think that don't.
That's
change.
it. I'm moving to Arizona.
Is it? Yeah, man. Sedona. I'm thinking
Sedona's gorgeous,
yeah,
but I
Sedona.
think you got to pretty much be rich to live there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a retirement kind of
Mesa
upper class.
Mesa, that's kind of my place.
Yeah.
Mesa, Arizona.
There you
Sounds
go.
good.
Want to meet up in Mesa? Let's move there together.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
I have to change everything about the podcast. Start paying state taxes. You will.
Yeah. Oh, fuck that. You know
Yeah,
what?
no,
Yeah.
man.
I'll take the time change over state taxes.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Speaking
we have
of sucky government shit.
yeah, we had a bone to pick, and so did old Marv Heemeyer.
right.
Had quite a bone to pick with his local government holding him back.
That's
And
right.
it's kind of a divisive case. A lot of people defend this guy.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? As far as like the monsters we've covered, he's definitely on the lower end. He didn't actually kill anyone. So, spoiler there.
Oh, yeah. This guy's not a monster. This is a guy just, at worst,
Fed up.
bent on
Just
revenge.
Fed up.
At worst. At worst.
I mean, we'll
Bent on
we'll
revenge.
talk about, you know, I'm not going to defend him because really
I'm not
this is not the
defending
way.
him, I'm
This
just
is
saying.
acting out like a child, you know, but it's a fun case though.
Oh, yeah.
And we can have a lot of fun because there was
I'm
really
surprised.
no victims other than a lot of sad innocent buildings that were standing there that are no longer standing after this rampage.
Right. I'm just surprised it took us this long to do this one, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Man, I thought it was gone to the woods, man, you know? Yeah. But you brought it back out, and I'm glad.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into it.
Let's do it.
Marvin Heemeyer and his Killdozer, baby.
Let's crank it up. Okay, so for this intro, I want to do something different, right? Well, obviously, you guys have read the title, so you know what this episode is about. But I'd like to play a little game. I challenge you to play this intro for a friend, just these sound clips that I have hand-selected, and see if they can guess what this case is about. It'll be fun, okay? So here's clip number 1.
He's going to turn around here and make one last stand and shove that caterpillar into the Vandals appliance store.
Okay, so thoughts? Why does this man have a caterpillar, right? And why is he trying to shove it into a hardware store? And also, why is that so difficult? All right, all those questions will soon be answered. Here's clip number 2.
You can see he just is deliberate and determined, and nothing will stop him except his own equipment.
Okay, so you heard it there. He seems determined, right? Unstoppable. Unless his equipment fails. Interesting. Still a difficult caterpillar, if you ask me. Let's listen on. Here's clip number 3.
What we're going to do, if you can stay with me now, he's going to make one last stand here. We're going to fast forward again and show you how far he gets, and then we'll take it up to where we actually have members of the Grant County SWAT team, the Sheriff's Office SWAT team, standing on top of the caterpillar.
Okay, so what I'm gathering is, shoving a caterpillar into a hardware store is obviously a crime. Right? Are you guys getting the same thing? Are you understanding what's going on here? The SWAT team is literally standing on top of this caterpillar to prevent him from pushing it in the hardware store. I just don't... They're going through some great lengths. Seriously, how strong is this caterpillar? Is it not dead yet? Clip number 4.
But they seemed to realize at some point that he was unable to shoot out, and that at this point he was like a turtle on his back. He was very vulnerable. He had gotten himself wedged. He disabled the caterpillar.
Okay, not really sure what's going on here, but he seems to have really strained himself. And now, he's a turtle on his back. You heard it, right? I mean, I guess this is it for him. I don't think the caterpillar is ever gonna make it into the hardware store in his disabled state. Let's listen on. Clip number 5, roll it.
About 70 years in this market, we've never seen anything like this.
Well, no shit. A guy trying to shove a caterpillar into a hardware store while the SWAT team tries to stop him, and then all of a sudden he falls on his back and he can't get up, and him and the caterpillar are both disabled. I've never even heard of anything like this, much less seen anything like this. So of course, let's listen on. How many clips do we have left? 2? All right, clip 6. Here we go. If you haven't guessed it by now, I don't know what the hell you're doing here.
He talked with me about doing this back in January, and just in a conversation while we were having dinner, and of course I thought that he was just kidding. I had no idea that he would follow through with it and continue.
Okay, so he told someone about this plan earlier. Cool. She took it well, in my opinion. Me, I would have been like, that's a fucking stupid idea. Just leave caterpillars alone. And if he told me this in January, I would know he wasn't going to do it, you know? So I don't doubt her. I mean, I don't blame her for doubting him, because there's no caterpillar. It's probably hard to find a caterpillar in January. You know, it's probably why I waited till the spring to do all this. All right, last clip, or hint, whatever, number 7. Here it comes.
The people that caused him harm, that he was going to... I'm trying to think of how I put it, that he would pay them back.
So there you have it, clip number 7. What's your guess, right? Maybe this caterpillar is part of his revenge scheme? Oh, you might be right on that point. I tell you what, I'll give you one hint. It did not happen in Florida. As crazy as this story sounds, did not happen in Florida. Okay? It's the only hint you get. Or you could just listen on and Lauren's about to tell you in like 3, 2...
All right, our case this week is a guy by the name of Marvin Heemeyer. I like guys named Marvin. I don't know, I just like that name. It just immediately makes me think of Home Alone.
Marvin. Yeah.
Marv.
Marv? What are you thinking, Marv?
Yeah, those Marvs are always up to something, aren't they?
They are.
If you're a Marvin out there, let us know. I want to know what you're up to.
Like Marvin Martian, he's always up to stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Marvs are always sneaky. They're always up to something.
They are, man. They are always up to something.
Yeah, and in this case, this guy had a cassette tape manifesto. This tells you that this case is a little older, more from like the early 2000s.
Although, if you're gonna have a manifesto, a cassette tape one is a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah,
Cool
his buddy told him to do a videotape one, and he's like, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. That this is actually old Marvin. You're not gonna see my face, but you just have to. And then he said his social security number, so you knew it was him.
Oh yeah. And the audio is great too. I mean, it's not like there's any question.
It's a little grainy, which kind of adds to it, I think.
Yeah,
it sounds
some
like a cassette tape.
Some areas are, but a lot of it was pretty damn good.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can tell, you can hear every word. I'm not saying it, but I'm just saying it's got that kind of grimy cassette tape feel, almost like an old, 9, whatever they call it, 7mm record or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whatever the fuck the millimeters are on those.
Right.
I'm not a hipster. I'm sorry.
7s, I don't know.
Let me wax my mustache and ride my unicycle around, and then I'll remember.
Right.
So the opening line to Marv Heemeyer's cassette tape manifesto was, "God bless me in advance for the task that I'm about to undertake."
It's one way of looking
And
at it.
that was his mindset before he went on the rampage that we're going to cover in this episode, was that every step of the way he was basically justified and proven that God wanted him to do this, because in his eyes, like, he kept kind of setting roadblocks up and then they would not happen. Like he almost wanted to be discovered, he said, but we'll get into it. I think he was dishonest in that, in saying it that way, because I think he was putting his own roadblocks. No, I think he wanted this to happen and he was kind of making it happen, but then he was saying, well, you know what? I tried to sell the dozer and then nobody bought it. It's like, dude, you had it listed for a lot of money and nobody really had a need for a fucking dozer at that moment. I'm sorry. Does that mean you're supposed to go on a rampage with it? Like,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's a hard sell.
Right. Yeah, you have a yard sale and you have a bulldozer. No one bought it. Is that so shocking? $33,000 dozer. No one bought it.
Right. Do a lot of people want it? Sure. Like, can a lot of people justify buying it? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Marvin Heemeyer, let's dive into his past a little bit. He was born October 28th, 1951 in South Dakota. He shares his birthday with Bill Gates and Caitlyn Jenner. Couple of gems.
Okay. Couple of gems. I hear you, brother. Yeah, in their own worlds. Yeah, in their own professions, I guess they are.
Yeah.
Two successful people, rather.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of three, really. Three successful people.
Oh, yeah, Heemeyer was
Caitlyn was formerly
well.
Bruce Jenner, who was like an Olympic athlete. So really.
That's right. So.
And then went on to be Caitlyn of TV star fame, reality TV fame.
And up to my standards, Heemeyer was a very successful person as well. So I think we're 4 for 4 on this birthday. These people that we know.
That's crazy, right?
That's pretty
crazy. Doubled down on a couple characters.
Yeah. We don't get to do that.
Bill
often.
Gates, you almost could split him. Like, him and his money is like almost another entity. There's so much of it. It's like another person.
It's
We're
probably
just multiplying.
It's just a giant money god that he goes and asks for advice and guidance.
Yeah, what do you think about that whole thing people say about those guys that are that rich, like Bill Gates, where they say, if he's walking down the street and he dropped $100, it's actually smarter for him to just keep walking. He's going to lose more money by turning around and picking up that $100. And I'm just like, I'd still pick up the $100.
Wait,
like,
what's that theory based on?
They're based on the fact that he's making so much money, like, every second off of like all of his investments and interest. It's like he's making more than that 100, like in that second. But it's like in that second, when he turns around and get the $100, he's still going to be making the other money too.
Yeah.
So your fucking theory's flawed. I'm sorry.
It's not like he has to clock out on his phone and then bend over and get the $100 and then clock back in.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Stop time. I have to pick up my.
Right. I don't understand how that would make sense.
Well, maybe they're saying on the way to what he's doing that is going to be so much. He's going to make so much money from what he's doing. When he gets there. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's dumb.
Or it could be that the people are going to stop you. People maybe see
or just
you.
leave the $100 for a homeless person. You rich bastard.
Yeah, you really don't need it.
Whoever finds that money could use it more than you. That's my thing.
That's definite.
Yeah. So, as we mentioned, he was born October 28th, 1951. He had moved to Colorado after being stationed there while in the Air Force. So he was in the Air Force and he learned how to weld in the Air Force. He was a welder in the Air Force, and he became damn good at it.
Kind of have to be if you're welding on airplanes.
Right. Yeah. So he was very, very good at using torches and welding and all that stuff. So. Yeah. And while stationed in Colorado, he kind of fell in love with the place, and he went there initially after getting out of the Air Force to, he planned on doing like a 6-month vacation there, and just kind of was like, why don't I just buy some property? And he ended up buying a cabin on a couple acres, sitting on 3 lots, and it had a deck with a hot tub that he liked to frequently sit in and just contemplate life. And so he ended up moving to Colorado, and then in 1991, he moved to the small town of Gransby, about 16 miles from Grand Lake, where he had previously been living. He'd been living in Grand Lake area, and then moved to Gransby, a very small town, and that's where he would make infamy later, about 10 years later after moving there. In the Grand Lake area, he had no relatives, so he had to make friends, and he made some friends, and he also eventually made enemies, as we'll see.
That's tough to do in a small town, man. When you move into a small town, it's really tough.
They've got
you
those.
Can make enemies really quick,
Yeah, because most of the time in a small town, I could be wrong, but it seems like most of the people that are there have been there for a long time, and you're the new outsider. Yeah, they've been looking out for each other. That's what you see. The good old boys club is what
Yeah.
what Marvin liked to call it, which he got lambasted by in his opinion.
Yep.
He feels like they all ganged up on him, like it's a schoolyard, and just kind of like held him down so he couldn't succeed.
Yeah, that's a very real thing, man. And it's like
Yeah.
when you're from an area for a long period of time and you can prove it, you don't even really have to know these people who are from this area for a long time. They automatically feel like they know you and can trust you.
Right.
You know, like I know people, like since moving back home, I mean, and before I left too, but I would run into people that didn't even know me, but they knew my grandfather or they
Yeah.
knew my dad or they knew somebody like that. And so they felt like they could trust me. I felt like I already had a step up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're
But-
in.
Exactly. But on the
You're
other
one of
end,
us.
I've also lived in a small town, like in southern Nevada, where I didn't know anybody and I was the outsider, and I definitely felt that as well. Like
Yeah.
you go into the store and they're like, hey, can we help you? And I'm like, yeah, I live here. I mean, I've been in this store like 10 times, you know?
Yeah,
but
you lived here for how long? About 2 weeks, guy?
yeah,
Calm down.
exactly. So you kind of, I kind of felt the other end of that too. So it's kind of given me a better perspective. But that small town mafia feel is definitely a reality.
There's what they call legacy families, which is what most of the people in Granby were. You know, we'll get
Yeah.
into the Thompsons, the Dochefs. Like there's several families that are kind of running this town. They've snatched up property over the multiple generations that have been there. You know, their grandfather bought up a lot of property, and then their dad bought up property, and now they're buying up property. And so like maybe 3 or 4 families a lot of times own these small towns for the most part. And then if you come in, you try and start snatching up land, they see you as a threat. You know, not as like a, hey neighbor, you know, we can all be happy here. It's like they, at least in Marvin's opinion, they were trying to stop him from succeeding there because it was getting in their way, you know.
Right.
So initially, though, he did work for a muffler shop in Granby. So he was just kind of fitting in and working there, and he was doing really well. He was so good at it that he decided, why not just open up his own muffler shop? You know, I've got the skills. I'm why people are coming here. You know, I'm fixing the mufflers. So why not just open up my own shop and make all the money as opposed to just making them wages?
Hey, man.
Yep. And so it was 1994 when he decided to fully settle in, and he bought the cabin with the hot tub from the deck, and it was on a 3-parcel lot. And his favorite thing to do in the world was snowmobile. He had a snowmobile that he had really custom fit. He was known for creating what he called Heemeyer bumpers or Marvin bumpers.
Oh,
He would
okay.
custom fab out of round tube steel
Yeah.
and bend it around the edges, and this thing they could take out trees and whatnot.
Dude, that's super handy because on a snowmobile, sometimes you take out trees even when you don't want to.
Exactly. So if you got a Marvin bumper, you're good
That's
to go.
right. You got a Marvin bumper.
Yeah, and so he actually got quite a few friends, and one thing they would do is they were called the Thursday group. Every Thursday they would all take off work and go ride snowmobiles all day, and this went on for years like that. And he had any given Thursday, it could be either 4 people or up to like 30 people.
Yeah.
So, and by the way,
Cool.
real quick, the studying that we used, the main study source I used for this was actually a documentary / film. It was shot like a film, like it was budgeted like a film, and it's called Tread. You can find it. I bought it on YouTube. It's not for free on there. It was like I had to pay like $7 to rent it. But I don't know where else it's available. But probably anywhere you can watch, you know, anywhere you can buy video on demand, it's probably available. If you look it up, Tread, it's a phenomenal documentary. It's got like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's really all you need to know about this case. It dives into everything. It interviews all the different characters, all the people that he had a beef with. For the most part, are interviewed in this story, and they're telling their side of it. And it's pretty interesting because you kind of see, like, it seems pretty benign and simple to them. They're like, no, we weren't. He views it as like this big conspiracy, but we were just. It wasn't like that. It's not like we were meeting at the coffee shop and like, how can we hold down Marvin? You know.
Yeah.
That was their side. You know. So it definitely check out the movie if you're interested in this case at all. If you haven't already seen it, Tread. You can find that on. So. Yeah, that's where I'm getting a lot of this information. They talked to one of the young kids that was a part of the Thursday group when they would go out and ride snowmobiles, and he just really looked at Marv fondly, like a almost like a father figure, because at the time Marv was in his 40s and 50s,
Right.
and this kid was like 20, you know, and
Right.
he's like,
Marv
I couldn't
didn't
even
have any kids, not married.
Yeah, he never had any kids. He did have a serious girlfriend for a while, which we'll get into. But yeah, on these trips, you could really see his ingenuity and his ability to be a leader. He was a leader of this group. Like, they were all looked up to him, everybody in the Thursday group.
Yeah.
They would use his inventions while they were out there. He had his own grill, the Marv grill, when they would cook out there in the snow. He had his own Marv glove dryer, so they would have like this custom fab thing he built that would go over the top of a fire and dry people's gloves if they got wet.
That's nice.
And,
Yeah, this dude, he wanted to help people. You find that a lot when you find these old bachelors or these older single women, that never really had families. It's because, they have this extra money and resources. They want to give them to people.
Right.
They want to create that community. Even just because they don't have a family at home doesn't mean they don't want to be part of the community.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that's what Marv was genuinely trying to do here.
Yeah, and it was said that he was the alpha of the pack. Like, if anyone beat him, as far as like if anyone got ahead, like when they were going up a trail or whatever, they said it was the last time that person would ever beat him again. So he did have he had an ego. He wanted to be the man. I think that was
no
really
kidding.
yeah. I think that's a microcosm of this case, really. I mean, like,
Yes, I agree.
he
100%.
probably would have had a real problem with someone who was the same way that went out riding with him, but I think there was a good blend of guys where they let him kind of take the lead. But
Yeah.
in this small town, when it comes to, being a small business owner and trying to make your way, he was going to butt heads with other guys like him, and that he wanted to expand his businesses and kind of, in a sense, take over the town and be really successful. And there were other guys, all like Cody Dochev and the Thompsons that were just like him in that manner. And of course, they were going to butt heads, and that's what came to be.
Absolutely.
John Baldry, a friend of Heemeyer, said that Heemeyer was a likable person. Ken Heemeyer, his brother, said he would bend over backwards for anyone. And yeah, this is like early on in the documentary. They're interviewing people, and they're kind of getting they're giving putting a good outlook on Marvin Heemeyer, the person, and a lot of people had a lot of good things to say about him. Even the Grand County Undersheriff at the time, Glenn Traynor, had done work or had work done from Marv at his muffler shop, and said he was a well-respected member of the community, and he had never met someone early on when he moved there to that community that disliked him. Like, he was very well respected and liked. If anyone had any kind of problem that needed to be mended, via welding, they would take it to Marv and he would fix it up for them. And very well respected as a up and coming businessman in the town.
Right.
And then the girlfriend that we alluded to, who he had dated for a while, Trisha McDonald, dated Marvin for several years after meeting him at a bar in Grand Lake, Colorado. She had nothing but fond things to say about Marv. Throughout the whole documentary, they're interviewing her, and she still was like tearing up talking about him. She really liked him. She had, I think she had lost her first husband, and this was the first guy that she was intimate with after that. She was kind of a little bit reluctant to dive into the dating pool, but Marv was very gentle with her and very, very caring and very
Very
and later on as very
Marv,
understanding.
And I imagine that Marv was someone who wasn't typically in a hurry. He kind of worked for himself. He did his own thing. He did things his way. So I think probably with her engaging in a relationship with him showed that he had patience. You know what I mean? He probably had the attitude like, yeah, I'll care for you while you're here, but if I'm not for you, no big deal. And sometimes that's refreshing to meet people like that in your life, where they're low maintenance friends and people who are self-sufficient, people you don't feel like when you engage with them, you have to support them in a way, you know what I mean? Whether it be with your
They're not
time
needy
or whatever. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Exactly. And really the relationship, she said, was great. It finally, I think things went bad with that relationship when he started getting obsessed with this whole situation with the local government and all these other guys in this town. He started ranting and raving about it all the time, and then they started fighting about little things, and that's when their relationship ended up falling apart because he just got too obsessed with the idea that everyone was out to get him in Granby. So the way that this thing really kicked off and the way that he started to become at odds with the people in the town, it began with something that seemed, pretty like not much was going on, but it was an FDIC foreclosed property auction that occurred. And there was basically like, a bunch of different properties in Granby that were up for auction. And Marv went over there looking for potentially a property that he could buy that he could start his muffler business on. And there was a property that was on 2 acres with a 3,000 square foot building on it that was up for auction. I think the auction started at like 30,000. Mm-hmm. He ended up bidding 35 and then 40 because there was another gentleman there that was also bidding on it. But when Marv bid 40, the gentleman didn't bid any higher.
Right.
Even though allegedly his budget for this property was 50,000, he didn't bid any higher than 40. It might have been just out of anger that someone else would even dare to bid against him. I don't know.
I just don't think he expected an out-of-towner. I think because of who he was in this town, he's thinking, who's going to be here to buy this auction, buy this little 2-acre property in this town?
Exactly. Who's got the insider info and all that shit? Right. Because the guy was Cody Dochev, who was there that was counterbidding against Marv, and Cody was accompanied.
Lost the property, right?
Yeah, exactly. Cody came there with a $50,000 budget allegedly. And he was accompanied by town mayor Gus Harris. Gus Harris was the mayor of the town at the time, who was there with Cody, and he was supposedly funding the purchase of this. So they were going to be partners or something on this property. And Gus said, we had a $50,000 thing, and Cody just didn't bid any higher than once Marv bid 40, he ended up getting it.
Yeah.
And Marv talked about it later, and he's like, you know what, you're mad at me, but that's your fault. You went to an auction and you didn't bring enough for what you wanted, and I got it. So why are you mad?
Yeah, sorry. And it may have been like you said, I know you said maybe he was just flustered that someone else was voting or bidding against him and he forgot or something. But I know I heard in more than one account that Cody actually stood up on a chair and looked back to try to see who was bidding against him. Like he was that shocked.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. He thought this was in the bag. He thought nobody wanted this property. And he probably was going to get it for less than he owed the bank in the first place. So let him foreclose on it, go to the auction, buy it back. Now you still got your property anyways for less money.
Well, I think what it comes down to is that, maybe he went there with thinking 50 was the most he would pay, but I think he really was kind of planning on getting it for like 30 or whatever.
Right.
And then there's this guy that ruined that whole plan.
He's going to take the other $20,000 and do what he wants with the property. If he doesn't have that extra $20,000, there's no point in getting it. That's why he didn't bid anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was being cheap. And guess what? That property ended up gaining value like crazy, which we end up seeing later. Marv sells it for $400,000 10 years later. So, yeah. So he's, there's different accounts of what occurs after the auction ends. If you, Marvin, this documentary starts and he's in it. One of the first things he says in his tapes is that he buys this property at this auction, and then this guy that he's never met, Cody Dochev, who was counterbidding against it, comes up to him after he wins the property and is just irate and introduces himself, but he's like, this guy was just a fucking asshole, and starts going off on me, about this and that, and how dare you. And that's kind of what started this whole beef was that, but Cody, I believe Marv's thing is, why would he make that up, first of all? And then second of all, they interview several other people. They interview the Thompsons, who know Cody quite well, and everyone in the town says, Cody's Cody. He is outspoken, he's brash, and he's basically a small man with a big temper. And so it just kind of fits his character that he would do something like this, that he was bidding on a property and that someone else got it, and that's just his character to freak out on the guy. So
yeah, I heard the term Napoleon complex get thrown around quite a bit while studying Cody.
Yeah, and even when they interviewed Gus Harris, the guy that was the mayor at the time then, and he's just like a bus driver now, an older guy, and he was like, I don't really remember anything occurring like that, But he's like, you could just tell he was covering for it, because he's still to this day buddies with Cody.
Right.
They've been friends forever, and they were going there expecting to get this property and snatch up more land because they're legacy families and whatnot in the town. And this guy came in and threw a wrench in the situation, and so that's kind of where it begins. And then it's kind of from there it spiraled out of control, because he felt like he pissed off Cody Dochev, who has all these connections in town, and right away he gets the property, and it seems like right away they're trying to ruin his chances of doing anything with it, because the sanitation board comes to him and says, okay, you got the property, and if you want to do anything with it, you need to connect to city sewer and water. And guess what? The nearest line for sewer is like hundreds of feet away from your property, And the only way to connect to that is to run a line, which is going to cost you anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000, which is more than you
Unreal.
just paid for the property.
Right.
And he thinks I don't need to connect a sewer. It already had, I guess it had like some kind of makeshift sewer tank
Probably had a
on the
septic.
property. Yeah, and he's planning on using it for a muffler shop. So what's he going to need? One little toilet maybe?
Right.
I'm sure he could have he would have probably preferred like, look, I'll just use the bathroom at a neighboring business, or I'll pee in the back lot or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not how these things work. And really, to me, it's like he should have looked and done more research and known that he had to probably connect to this. This is, you got to do your due diligence before you just start buying properties.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know what the utility situation is, and sometimes that stuff happens where you have to connect and it costs a ton of money.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, my last house was on an acre, and I knew eventually because there was a city water line that ran down my street, and my neighbor, who was right on my property line, was on city water. I knew it was just a matter of time. If anything happened with my well, they were going to make me connect to city water, and that was going to cost me. That was part of why I wanted to get out of that problem. I was like, it's going to happen eventually where they're not going to let me re-drill my well, and I'm going to have to connect to city water. These are the kind of things you have to know as a property owner, you know? So he should have planned and had some money set aside for things like this. But at the same time, I don't know that they would have made him do this if they didn't have this beef with him either. You know, I think they let stuff slide with their buddies, with the Legacy family guys and the good old boys. And with this new guy, they were going to stick it to him, and that's the vibe he got from it. And he decided to try and fight the system, and he didn't connect right away. He just kind of went on, and eventually it catches up with him and makes it a lot worse off. He should have just maybe connected from the start. And it just creates this tension between him and City Hall. And one of the people was Ron Thompson, was the vice president of the sanitation board. He knew Cody Dochev. He knew Gus Harris, the mayor. You know, he was, in Marvin's eyes, part of the good old boys club. The Thompson family goes back a long way. They were known as a Granby legacy family. They'd been around for generations. They had a large excavation company. They also owned many land parcels in Granby. And so the Thompsons became, you know, in Marvin's grand ideas, they were one of the big parts of the problem. It was, you know, it was Dochev, it was the Thompsons, it was Gus Harris. We're already getting this list of people that he's got a huge problem with, and it just continues to grow.
I like to call it, right?
Yeah, it just continues to grow too. The asshole list gets longer as we go through this.
Right.
So the sanitation board comes to him and tells him he has to connect and all that, and he decides he's gonna try and fight it as long as he can. Regardless, Marv's Muffler Shop went on and was doing well, making money, trying to fit in. He was trying to fit in with the community still. They didn't put a cease and desist to his property yet, as far as like you can't conduct business, but it was an ongoing talking point situation with the city board, where he was fighting his case and saying I don't want to connect and all that stuff. So it just kept going on. Then in 1998. The town's leadership decided to spot zone the 2-acre property directly across from Marv's Muffler Shop. This is what set him off. This was the moment of no turning back, where he decided something's got to be done about this town, and it's got to be me that does it.
Yep, they trapped him with this.
Yeah, this he viewed as like a slap in the face, because there was this lot across the street from the property he'd bought, which was basically like it was property that couldn't be industrialized, essentially. However, the city decided for their old buddy Cody Dochev, and he viewed Gus Harris, the mayor of the time, allowing this to happen. And they were basically teaming up on him. And Cody wanted the property that Marvin had, that he won in the auction, and the next best thing would be to buy the property across the street, which no one should have been able to buy. It was illegal to spot zone like this in Colorado, but they did it anyway. And the fact that no one protested within 30 days, it became lawful for them to do this. But I'm sure they didn't inform anyone it was happening until the 30 days was up, you know?
Oh, of course not. You had to dig
that
up.
Yeah, so of course, who goes under contract for that property right away? Cody Dochev, of course, longtime friend of the town mayor, Gus Harris. And what he was planning on doing with that property was putting in a concrete batch plant, which this property and the property that Marvin owned across the street were basically right next to community neighborhoods, a bunch of families living right there.
Right. And if you don't
so
know,
Marvin,
concrete plants are horrible to live near.
yeah, they're
I
they're
mean, they're
noisy, they're
loud.
dusty as shit.
Oh God, they're so fucking loud and dusty. You're right. The dust just travels for miles.
Yeah. And so
Awful.
this just absolutely sets Marvin off. He's down at City Hall every day fighting it. As soon as he hears that there's going to be a concrete batch plant put there, even the fact that that land was sold when it shouldn't have, was zoned to have something like this and sold in the first place pissed him off, but especially that it was going to be Cody Dochev across the street with his own concrete plant. And this is in his tapes. He has a quote about this situation. Yeah, and so they were down at City Hall every day arguing, and he had kind of roused up the public for his side, Marvin did, and they were down there arguing against the concrete plant. It's going to create dust. He'd gone and talked to the people in the neighborhoods nearby and warned them of what was coming and got them to come down. And, of course, Cody Dochev at the same time was down at City Hall with his cronies arguing the other side, standing up on chairs, yelling, to the City Hall and all that. So,
And also so he could be seen. He's standing up on
yeah.
chairs.
Short jokes are the best. Sorry, short guys. So this is a quote from his tapes, and throughout the documentary Tread, you hear so much more than I can even put in the crime line as far as like him telling his whole story. So that I highly recommend. They use the audio from the tapes a lot, but I really liked this section when he's talking about his mindset at this time. He says, quote, "In nature, wolves, coyotes, they have their territory. Look at the mother. They will fight to protect their young. And a male will definitely fight to protect his territory. If he doesn't, he will be overrun. Now, if an animal will do this, why wouldn't a man?" So it's very much like we talked about with him being the leader of the snowmobile group.
Right.
He views this as Cody Dochev's coming in and pissing on his bed, basically.
He thinks all this is personal now, especially once he
Yes.
saw Cody Dochev on the property title. I think if somebody else bought it, maybe he just goes and fights the concrete plant and then he loses. So what? Maybe
Right.
he keeps going with his business and life goes on. But since
This was a
it's Cody
pissing
Dochev,
contest with him and Cody Dochev.
Yes, exactly.
Cody Dochev really got under his skin that day when he attacked him after the auction, and Marvin had a hard-on for him ever since, and now he's basically got to share almost a property line with the guy. They're going to be directly staring at each other across the street. It's like
It's like Bob's Burgers. It's like,
grumpy
Jimmy
old
Pesto
men almost,
and Bob.
or grumpy old men.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like what was the Mondo Burger and Good Burger?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember that movie?
Yes, I do.
Keenan
Good
and Kel.
Burger. Yes, Good Burger. How could I
I
forget?
loved Keenan and Kel back in the day.
I know.
Kel loves orange soda. The best.
And Coolio doing the intro.
Those of you 90s
Oh my
kids, you remember
gosh.
that shit.
That's good stuff, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, this really set everything off. And now at this time, he feels like they're just continually trying to put their foot on him because the court finally decides now to put their foot down on the water and sewer situation that he had been kind of trying to avoid. And they said he has to connect to the city system and he wouldn't be allowed to conduct business on the property until he did. Also, in the meantime, he would be fined $100 a day until the situation was resolved. So
Damn, that's harsh.
they're really coming down on him now. They sold off. They're basically, it feels like, it does kind of feel to me like the town is saying, "Fuck you, new guy," at this point.
Yeah, it does.
But at the same time, I feel like he kind of created this hostile, like us versus them situation too. I get the whole Cody thing. The thing is, I feel like Cody, he even said it in the tapes, Cody would have gone off on anybody that bought that property. And maybe anyone else that knew that town and knew Cody would have took it with a grain of salt, like, yeah, whatever, Cody's a hothead, fuck him, he'll get over it, that type of thing.
Right.
But Marvin didn't know the guy and took it personal. And then these other things that are happening that seem connected, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Because if you ask the sanitation board, they'd say this is standard procedure. If you're going to run a business, you have to connect to city sewer. That makes sense, right?
That makes sense.
You don't
That
get to
does
just
make sense.
have a dump truck with your shit in the back.
No.
You got to do what's
Can't
right for the
happen.
city.
That's
So
right.
you can't put your own septic in
You're
right in
having-
the middle of town where it's leaching into the water table and all that.
Right, and
you
you're
gotta-
having the public, members of the public, in your business. I mean, you need to have proper facilities and, places for them to use the restroom, wash hands, whatever. Like, it needs to be up to par.
Yeah. Now, what added insult to injury is they say you have to connect. Now, it would have been what's funny about it is that it would have been much easier for him to connect before Cody Dochev got his hands on the property across the street, because now he has to go through Cody Dochev's property to get the line connected, which means he needs an easement from Cody Dochev, which Cody Dochev is not going to just give him because they fucking hate each other.
Of course not. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a tangled web Cody Dochev weaves.
So Marvin, feeling as though his back's against the wall, he hires an attorney and files a lawsuit with the district court against the town of Cody Dochev and the town of Granby. Meanwhile, the construction of the batch plant across the street continued on as if nothing was happening, and he's just standing there from his muffler shop, stewing, I'm sure, every day, staring at that shit going up, even though he's trying to put a halt on it. 9 months later, after pleading their cases, the district judge dismissed the lawsuit, and Marv's attorney refused to file an appeal, which pissed him off. He then felt like his attorney was all part of it, like he had gotten a handout from higher up members of the town,
right?
And also took a bunch of Marv's money to defend him. And then when Marv said, we have enough here to appeal to a higher court, if we get out of Granby or whatever, he was like, nope, I don't want to appeal it. And to me, it's like, why wouldn't an attorney want to appeal it? Like, that's just more money for him. I don't know.
Because he took a payout. He was a Granby attorney. I mean, Marv even said that. He knew that.
Yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do. I mean, you're in a small town. You got to use the resources around you. I mean, what was he supposed to do?
Yeah, and I think that at this point he felt so cornered that this is where you start to see, like, this is when he decides, I don't know how, but I'm going to get these motherfuckers back. And you start hearing it in his tapes. The anger rises after these events. And one of the quotes, he said, I shoved the truth in their faces and they couldn't deal with it. But I guarantee you, I'm going to make them deal with it. So you start hearing these like threats of like, I don't know how yet, but I'm going to get them back.
I think he had some ideas already.
It's a scary thing when a person like Marv, because like we mentioned, he doesn't have kids at this point, I don't know if he had broken it up with his girlfriend yet, but he's kind of a loner at this point, and he's a very angry guy at a lot of people. And while you're going about your business, Cody Dochev's running his different businesses. The Thompsons are running their excavation business. The guys on the board and the mayor and everybody are just going about their day. They've got stuff to do. He's just stewing and coming up with plots to get back at you.
Exactly.
That shit is scary to me.
He has all the tools of a dangerous man.
Yes, because he's a very smart guy and very crafty.
And also he's single. He's not liable for anyone. He has plenty of money. He has skill, and he has anger, and he has plenty of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a dangerous person right there.
Exactly. So, this was kind of the final straw when the court dropped the lawsuit. He viewed that as like, I have no other options. There's nothing left I can do. They've won. They've beat me. And he says he was, in his tapes, he says at this point he was sitting in his hot tub alone, weeping, just sitting there crying. And suddenly he said a peace came over him when he realized what God had wanted him to do.
And that's the missing piece.
Yeah, God at this point takes over in his mind and basically leads him in the direction of the path that he takes. And he says that every roadblock that should have been there wasn't because God wanted this to happen. He wanted me to be this righteous soldier and prove these people wrong. And he even said God had not allowed him to have kids because God wanted him to carry this task out. And he knew if he had kids that he wouldn't do it. And very angrily in his tapes, he says, "You picked on the wrong man."
Right.
And
wouldn't it be easier for God just to like let you get the easement on Cody's property, or
he works in mysterious ways,
let
Michael.
you keep your septic? I don't know. I just don't know if this was really God's plan.
Right. Or just not created the assholes that's created the city. Maybe just make
maybe not
Cody
even
Dochev a little taller and a little less angry.
Right. So God brought you all the way to Danby to teach these people a lesson that they can't do the things that they want to do, but you could do the things that you want to do because you have God on your side.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Works in mysterious ways, man.
That's right. That covers everything you need to know right there.
Yeah. But before he takes on, however he's going to get back at these people, he has to add a few more people to the asshole list, which you talked about.
Oh, here we go.
One being Patrick Brower, who was a local writer and reporter for the Granby newspaper. He was kind of like the town's reporter guy. You know, he always knew what was going on. He was always down. I'm sure he was always down at town hall, trying to get the scoop on who's mad at who. And,
Yeah, or at the barbershop.
yeah, exactly. What's the scoop, guys? And he claims to have tried to meet with Marv on several occasions. Marv was kind of pissed at him because he wanted to tell his side of the story to the town, you know, and try and win over a lot of the residents there, you know, against the powers that be, the good old boys. And he claims Patrick Brower would never let him tell his side of the story. Patrick Brower, however, who was interviewed in the documentary Tread, continually said that he kept trying to go out and meet with Marvin at his muffler shop, and every time he would go down there, he wouldn't be there because he'd be out snowmobiling. Now, I don't know if Patrick only showed up on Thursdays because he knew about the Thursday Club and this was his excuse, or
You
what
know
the
about
deal
the
was.
Thursday Club, Patrick, you bastard.
Yeah. I tend to lean Marvin on this one a little bit. I think Patrick Brower had opportunities
Dude, he was paid.
tell Marvin's
he was
story.
paid by these other guys.
Or he was afraid to speak out against the good old boys club and take Marvin's side because what would it do for him? You know, it probably they could probably get him fired or whatever.
Well, he's planning on staying in this town, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a town of 900 people.
Exactly. And the part that made me think that Patrick Brower wasn't really was kind of lying when it came to like I never had the chance to tell his story is he said that at one point he ran into Marv and Marv said, "When are you gonna let me tell my story?" And he's like, "You know what, Marv? How about I just give you a free advertisement in my newspaper? It's a $200 value. I'll take a picture of you and I'll post an article about your muffler shop or whatever." And that I'm like, well, if you had the time to do that, why didn't you just interview him real quick? You know what I mean? Like, you give him a free ad, that's kind of like escape. You know, kind of like it seemed like it was a cheap way out in a sense.
Well, they don't want to put his story in the paper.
Because that wouldn't piss anybody off just doing an ad for him. And not everybody even knows that you gave it to him for free. As far as they know, he paid for it.
Right. He's just trying to pull a fast one. He's trying to brush off Marv while also not offending his good old boys, his buddies.
Yeah. Now another person added to the asshole list would be Casey Farrell, who owned a department store called Gamble's in Branby and served on the town council. He would end up voting in favor of the batch plant and became another target for Marvin. So he was kind of on the side. He heard out Marvin's complaints about it, and they kind of adjusted things for Cody Dochev. They said, "Cody, you need to make sure these people have a valid point. You need to make sure that the dust is controlled and this and that." And he said, "But other than that, I think we got a good deal here that you can run your batch plant and all that." And Casey Farrell continually spoke in favor of Cody Dochev's concrete plant. So that became another person on Marvin's hit list, if you will, after voting for it as part of town council. Patrick Brower claims that before the lawsuit was dropped and while Cody Dochev's batch plant was being built, the Dochevs called up Marvin and said that if he dropped the lawsuit, they would give him the easement to connect to city and water. And at that point, Marvin hung up on them. So supposedly he had the chance to connect and get the easement from Cody Dochev if he just dropped the lawsuit. But
it wasn't about the lawsuit anymore, dude. It wasn't about it. He was bent on revenge right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hey, maybe Marv, this was God stepping in and telling you to just connect.
That's exactly my point. Is like it's when it's convenient for him carrying out his plan, things look to him like God's telling him to do it. But then when there's things that are counter to that, he just kind of ignores them. That's what's convenient about it. You know, it's like this was a chance to.
This was a chance. You know, this is what you were looking for.
Yeah, he could have kind of buried the hatchet with Cody here. You know what? Yeah, thank you for offering me this. I'll drop the lawsuit and we'll just let bygones be bygones, and I'll get the easement and I'll be across the street running my muffler shop successfully, and you'll be over there with your concrete plant and we can just fucking move on. Okay,
so here's the thing, right? The whole reason you got the lawyer and started the lawsuit was just to get the easement, right? I mean, on paper, that's what Marv said. I know, but that's what he said.
Yeah.
You got that. You won. Yeah, you spent a lot of money and you went through, but you won in a sense. But I guess he figured, well, I've lost so much money on this lawyer who is also
pride.
one of them.
It was all pride. I don't even think it was money. I don't think it was ever money for him.
Yeah.
I don't think that Marvin was even really motivated by money. I think money, he just wanted enough to be able to go snowmobile and live somewhat comfortably, which he always had. I think it was about pride for him, and he'd felt like he'd been embarrassed by the powers that be at this town. He initially wanted to be one of them. I think he even ran for town council or whatever when he first moved to Granby, and they denied him. And I think that may be where this thing really started. And ever since then, he kept getting justified in his views that they didn't want him to be a part of anything. And so I think that's what it was about. I think it was that he almost felt like a kid on the schoolyard that they didn't allow to fit in with the cool group,
Right.
Because he kept mentioning them snickering at him. After he lost a lawsuit, he kept saying, I'd go down to the mail place and the members of the council be snickering at me every time. He just had this view that he was a joke to the town, which I don't think everyone else was obsessed with him as he thought they were. I think they were all busy, like I said, running their businesses and everything else.
There's a hint of narcissism here. There's a hint of I'm the center of everyone's life when no one, you're really not.
Yeah, but maybe they did snicker at him because, there's that crazy guy again. But then they moved on with their lives. It's not like it was all day long. They were just talking about Marv,
Yeah, maybe. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, if he walked in and made a scene, and I'm sure he was not in the best mood everywhere he went, probably like slamming convenience store doors open and shit.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I fucking asked for 3 creams in my coffee. They gave me 2, and then they snickered on my way out.
Fuck is this?
Yeah.
Just throw your coffee on the floor and walk out.
Yeah. And so it's at this point in the story where he has another chance where you could view it as God stepping in and telling him to just cut out the nonsense and stop with this whatever plan you're hatching up to get back at the town, because following the dismissal of the lawsuit, Cody Dochev, so he had reached out before and said, I'll give you the easement if you drop the lawsuit. Now the lawsuit's over, and Cody Dochev comes to him and offers him $250,000 for his property, which is what he was asking. Marv actually had the property up for sale and was asking $250,000. Cody Dochev offered him the $250,000, having the property across the street, thinking, okay, I can have this whole square point, in town, right on the main strip to expand my concrete business and whatnot. Marv accepted. He then immediately refused and said that he wanted $375,000, which Cody agreed to. $375,000.
Yep.
Marv then backed down again, backed out of it, and this is just pride, as we said.
Here we go. There's 2
He
chances.
bought this property for $40,000, and now he's able to flip it for $375,000 to his enemy. And what's funny is if you look at it from the standpoint, how could he have not won here? He won the auction bid, right? For the guy, this is a property that Cody wanted, right? He wanted it for $40,000.
Exactly.
He didn't get it, and now you're selling it back to the guy that initially wanted it for way less, for 8 times or whatever it is. You're basically ripping the guy off, and it still wasn't enough. He had to get back at them in a more dramatic way, I guess.
Yep. If God wanted to stop the bulldozer, man, this is the number one way he was trying to do it right here. $375,000.
Yep, for a property you bought for $40,000 10 years before.
Yeah,
and you made he made a lot of money. He was really successful with the muffler shop for a long time too. So it's not like he didn't get anything else out of the property.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna catch so much shit from people who love this guy, but I mean, this is the real story. This is the real thing. Like, you want the facts or not? Do you want to have a make believe folk hero, or do you want the facts? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's one of those cases.
I mean, I don't view him as like this evil person. Obviously,
No,
as
he's
we
not
said,
an evil
I don't think
person.
he was out to kill anybody either. Like, there are arguments out there that said, well, he could have, but I think he knew damn well wherever he was headed was not going to be very fast, and that whatever he was, coming at with this bulldozer was going to be evacuated by the time he got there.
Exactly.
Exactly. Now, had he had a chance to get a clean shot on Cody Dochev, knowing that he was not going to make it out of this day anyway, he probably would have taken it. And he did shoot in Cody Dochev's direction. We'll get into all that, but let's stay on track. In the summer of 2002, Marvin took a trip out to California, and this is where this whole plan that he's going to undertake, this is like the beginning of it, is the purchase of this item. That he goes out to California. He goes to another auction. And this is really a case about auctions, isn't it? It starts with an auction and ends with an auction. And in California, this auction was not for foreclosed properties, however. It was an auction for heavy machinery. At the auction, Marv ended up getting a smoking deal on a Komatsu D355 bulldozer. This thing was a massive piece of equipment with tracks instead of tires. It was 11 foot, 10 inches tall, 28 and a half feet long when you include the shovel on the front.
Right.
Over 10 feet wide with an 1,175 cubic inch turbocharged engine. And that was before the many, and I say many, modifications that Marvin would soon make to this bulldozer. So I recommend you look up the Komatsu D355 bulldozer and see what a tank this thing is already, and then think about what he then does to it, and then look up the pictures of what he does to create pretty much a killdozer with this thing. He had
Pretty incredible.
he had the dozer shipped to his muffler shop property and kept it parked at the entrance with a for sale sign on it through the winter of 2002 and into 2003. And I liked this part in the documentary because they interviewed the other members of the town. They interviewed the Thompsons, and they're like, yeah, we were sitting there eating dinner, and we see this tractor come in. We see this trailer come in pulling this big-ass bulldozer, and we see it pull up to Marvin Heemeyer's property, and we're like, what the hell is he going to do with that damn thing? And then they said that he kept it parked right at the entrance to his, facing Cody Docheff's property as some kind of a threat. Like, he just kept it there all winter, pointing towards Cody Docheff's property. Yeah. And so I don't know if he bought this thing knowing what he was going to do, or if he just saw that he had a good deal on it, because he does put this for sale sign on it, and he had it for sale for quite a while.
Yeah, and no one bought it. But he probably was trying to make money on it, though, wasn't he? He was probably trying to flip it, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely trying to make money. I don't know. They never said what he paid for it at auction in the documentary, but they said what he was trying to sell it for, which was $33,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, he probably got it for like 15 or something at the auction, you know.
Right. He could have probably tacked on an extra 30,000 to the 375, and Cody probably would have bought all of it.
Right. Exactly.
You know what? $400,000, man. You can have everything and the bulldozer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. It wasn't good enough though.
No, it's good enough.
And so after that winter, when the tractor had sat there, Marv decided to put all of his property and belongings up for sale, knowing that he couldn't lawfully operate his muffler shop anymore without connecting to city sewer, which seemed impossible at this point. He put everything up to an auction, including the dozer and his property, and he said that it was God's will that prevented people from buying the bidding on the dozer and the shop. Those are the two things he said. Everything else that he owned sold except for the shop and the dozer. And he viewed this as even more of God telling him to continue on to the war path that he was on.
I feel like nobody wanted that because they didn't want problems with Cody and the Thompsons and all them.
Perhaps, or maybe they just had no need for a bulldozer. You know, it's not like a common thing you really need.
Right, but I mean,
everybody
I'm
in this
talking
town
about, like,
already
as far as
had
the
front
garage
loader
and stuff.
tractors. They had everything else you could need for. They all already had what they needed to conduct their businesses, and then he comes up with this massive bulldozer he's trying to sell for $30,000.
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm good.
That's true. It's a town of 900 people. Like, what's the chances of one of them want to buy a bulldozer? You know.
Yeah, if they needed a bulldozer, odds are they already had one too. You know.
True that.
Then in the fall of 2003, Travis Busey, who was a local businessman, he had a trash company that was growing at the time, and he was looking for a property much like what Marv had. It kind of fit his needs. It had the 3,000 square foot building that he could park his trucks in the winter. Mm-hmm. So he was looking forward to using this in the winter, and it had the lot big enough to accommodate his growing business. He ended up offering $400,000 to Marv for the property. And Marv accepted under the condition that Marvin could back rent the building on the property that Marvin had now put. He had put his dozer in there in the building. He'd taken it from the front entrance and put it inside. And he viewed that also as further proof that God wanted him to do this, because the dozer fit through the garage door of his former muffler shop by 2 inches. The dozer, as we mentioned, was 11 feet 10 inches tall, and the door was 12 feet. So by 2 inches, it fit, and he was like, "That. What more do you need? I don't need any more evidence that I'm supposed to do this."
Here's the thing: if it didn't fit, he's a fucking welder. He's gonna cut the top off of it and then weld it back on later. Like, get off it, Marv.
Yeah, it actually didn't fit initially, and he's like, "When I was able to cut a new door, so God wants me to do this."
What do you know? I can mold metal. Nothing stands in my way.
Yeah, so he sells the property, but he's back renting the building where he is going to undertake the construction of this killdozer. And the plan is in full effect at this point, and he's working tirelessly. He learns the comings and goings and the schedule of the trash company, Travis's trash company. He knows that by like 5 p.m. they're all done, they're all wrapped up, and they head home for the night, and that's when he would begin his work. He pretty much sleep during the day while Travis's trash company was in business, so that he wasn't in there making a ruckus and kind of drawing attention to himself.
Right.
And then at night he would work tirelessly. He had set up a little a little section inside the shop where he could sleep and make coffee, and it would be like 4 days on end before he would go take a shower, where he would actually leave and go somewhere to shower and get something to eat. He was just basically working on this thing every night, all night. So let's get into the construction of the Killdozer. And this thing was almost indestructible by the time he was done. He installed cameras with digital screens inside the cockpit so that he could see the outside world. Those screens on the outside, or the cameras, were protected by 3-inch thick bulletproof Lexan. He was basically using 1/2-inch thick steel, plated steel, to completely reinforce the entire bulldozer and turn it into a tank that way. And he was taking the 1/2-inch steel and putting brackets between it with like a couple-inch gap, and then pouring concrete between the steel plates to where this shit, you could pretty much hit it with an RPG or any kind of rifle that you can imagine, and there was nothing that was going to happen to it.
That's incredible.
He made 3 gun ports fitted for a 50 caliber rifle, a 308 semi-automatic rifle, and a 22 caliber LR rifle, all fitted with 1/2-inch thick steel, as we mentioned, protecting it. So there's just a little hole where the barrel could come out, and he had them rigged to where they were kind of hanging from different spots inside the cockpit of this thing, to where he could kind of like maneuver, and the gun was already positioned to fire. It took almost a year and a half to complete the construction of this Killdozer from when he began assembling it, and he readied himself for the attack. So yeah, this thing, you have to look up pictures of it to understand, because as we mentioned, it was already huge, but it just got so much bigger.
Yes.
And it's riding around on tracks as though if it is like a World War I tank, you know. So like, you can't attack it, you can't throw down a spike strip, you can't shoot its tires. Like it's
You can't stop it till the engine dies, pretty much.
Yeah, and he
Not much
actually
you can do.
had no plans of leaving this tank once he entered it. He wanted no weaknesses on this thing. So usually the weakness of a tank is if you can get up on top and get access to the hatch, you know, you can attack it in that way. He actually used a homemade crane to lower the armor hull over the dozer and himself. So there was no way out other than death for him to get out of there. He'd have to blow himself out of there, essentially.
God, dude, that's a long time riding around knowing you're not getting out of that thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like when you decide to commit suicide, you usually don't get
I think he decided
that
a long
much
time ago,
time.
though.
You don't
when
get
you think
that
about
much.
it.
Really?
Yeah, I think he'd spent many nights sitting in that hot tub, drinking a beer and thinking about, you know, this day and how he knew, you know, it was going to be the day. I don't think it was like, once he got in there, I think he was already like, the adrenaline, he was already ready. I don't think he was thinking too much about that. He was thinking more about destroying as much as he could possibly destroy. But yeah, that moment's got to be odd.
What as the bulldozer starts to slow, you know? You're like,
That's the moment. I think that's the moment that goes through my head, is like that moment when you realize it's over, no more fun to be had. This is the moment. That's which we'll get to, but because he knew there was going to be an end. He talked about it. He was like, either they're going to find a way to stop me, which I don't think is likely, or I'm going to go all day long and I'll run out of gas. But I've got a lot of gas in this thing. That's what he said. So that's pretty close to what happened. Yeah, I mean, he knew that there was going to come an end to the day. It was not going to continue on forever. So, but let's talk about it. The day of reckoning is what we'll call it. June 4th, 2004. Marvin, as we mentioned, having no intention of leaving the cabin once he entered it, used a homemade crane to lower the armored hull over himself into the dozer. And then, such a badass way to start the rampage is that he just drove right out the fucking building that he was in, his own former muffler shop. He just drove right through the wall.
Travis was like, "What the fuck, man? God,
Yeah,
I thought we were cool."
You were just renting the building, motherfucker. I still own it.
But to be fair, with the new armor on top of it, it probably wouldn't clear the door anymore.
Oh, no. It was not fitting
Right.
through the 2-inch gap anymore.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But also, just such a more badass way to start a rampage.
Yeah,
just
it
drive
is.
right
Just
through the
bust
building you
out
were
the
housing
door.
your machine.
Out the wall.
Yep. Yeah, so he drove right out the wall of his former muffler shop and headed straight across the street for you know who. The Angry Inch,
buddy.
Cody Dochev's concrete plant. The main office of the concrete plant made the first call to 911 as the dozer methodically destroyed several buildings on the lot. And Cody Dochev and his workers and buddies that are on the property at the time are trying everything they can to stop this thing, to no avail. They figure it's got steel tracks, like a tank. So grab the biggest metal rod you can find and let's try and take the tracks out. They find this big ass rod and they shove it in the tracks and absolutely nothing happens. It doesn't slow it one bit. Cody then asks somebody for a gun. One of his buddies has a loaded revolver, hands it to Cody. He starts firing at it. That's obviously not going to do anything, a little revolver.
You're
more
wasting
likely
ammo,
to
Cody.
have that
Just
bullet come
ruin it.
back and hit you than to do anything to this freaking tank.
Right. Oh,
They then decide they're going to get the biggest front end loader they have on the concrete plant, and Cody's gets behind the wheel of it and goes up and tries to get under the tracks and use the front end loader to lift this thing, which it actually lifted the front end loader tractor all off the ground, all except for one tire. 3 of the 4 tires were off the ground, and the bulldozer had not moved an inch. It had not been lifted one bit. It was so heavy, so many tons. I forget how many tons they said this thing was after he reinforced it with these concrete plates or these steel plates filled with concrete and everything. It had to have been like 60 tons or something.
it's crazy that the bulldozer made it as long as it did with all that extra weight, I mean, I know those motors are made to carry, the bulldozer and to push extra weight and whatnot, but carrying that much around and still being able to cause the destruction it caused, like, that says a lot for that machine, man.
It's kind of what's funny about it is that it was moving so slow. It was like this slow rolling death machine. Like they could see they knew where it was going. They knew where he was headed, but they couldn't do a damn thing to stop it. It's almost like a volcano and the lava's slowly moving and you're like, there's nothing we can do to stop it. It's going to destroy whatever it's in its path.
That's right.
And so now that Cody's in his front end loader and he's trying to lift this thing, Marvin sees an opportunity to use his guns for the first time. He has the rifle port that's actually pointed on the side that Cody's trying to lift with the front end loader, and he begins firing out with his 50 cal rifle towards the front end loader, and he's actually hitting the bucket in the front. So he's not even really close to hitting Cody, but it's enough to where Cody decides to get the fuck out of here and backs the front end loader and takes off. And they basically have to just sit there and watch as Marvin destroys all of the buildings on their concrete plant and moves on. After decimating the concrete batch plant, one officer, so there's now police officers that have began to arrive at the concrete plant, and Marv begins actually firing rounds towards the police officers before they fire anything at him. They'd been hiding behind a concrete barrier on the property. He begins firing rounds in their direction. One officer said that he heard bullets fly by his head, so I guess that's a notch in the side of maybe he was trying to harm people or kill people.
Right.
Because he easily, if they came that close to that officer's head, then it could have hit the officer's head. And
It just occurred to me, what do you think would have happened if a person would have just stepped in front of him to try to stop him?
he would have ran right over him.
Yeah,
I have no
That's
doubt
what
in
I
my
think,
mind
too.
he would have ran right over them.
that's what I think too. So it's like,
They would have
can
been
you,
hamburger meat.
it's like, does it even help to say that he didn't kill anybody? I mean,
I guess not. He would have killed people, really, the more you think about it.
he would have, right? He can't get out of there. What's he going to do? Just
Yeah.
be like, oh, I can't go anywhere. There's people all around me.
Yeah, I
I'll
guess I
just
should
sit in
just
here
give
and
up.
get arrested.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
No, this was a GTA rampage where he was just racking up stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was trying to get to that 5-star mark.
Oh, he got there quick, buddy.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, they're hiding behind this concrete barrier. He's firing rounds at them, and then he starts to slowly and methodically heading towards the concrete barrier that they're hiding behind. Obviously, as he gets near, I imagine it's like that scene in Austin Powers with the steamroller thing. He's like, no, just put his hand up. It's just going at half a mile an hour towards you. They decide to run off before it gets there, and he plows right over the concrete barrier that they were hidden behind.
Of course.
And after decimating the concrete batch, he's on his way to his next destination. He's got this list of, I imagine he's got this map drawn up of locations he's going to head from here to this fucker that I hate, and then to that bastard that I hate, and then to this guy, the Thompsons, Gus Harris, Dochef obviously was number 1 on the list.
Thank God everybody
He's in
lives so close.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's on his way to his next destination, and the police have, they're trying anything they can. They figure what we talked about as far as like the hatch on the top of a tank being the weak point. They figure maybe that's the case with this machine that he's built. And an officer named Glenn actually climbs on top of the dozer at this point as it's leaving the concrete plant and is riding down the street. There's pictures of him riding on top of this thing down the road, and he's trying anything he can up there. He sees an AC vent, it was kind of keeping Marvin cool and giving him some fresh air while he's inside this freaking metal box. So he decides to shoot a gun down into the AC vent. He sees no change, nothing happens. The tank, it's still rolling down the road. Someone throws up some flashbang grenades to him. He then shoves those down the exhaust port on the top. Nothing happens. And he realizes that there's no way in up on top and that he's basically just riding along at this point. And he actually rides along through the next destination, which is Mountain Parks Electric, the local power company. And that would be the next building that Marvin Heemeyer would destroy in his Killdozer. He just methodically, how he did it too, you can watch the video. He would basically come up to the side of the buildings and just kind of back in and out, just destroying the structural outer walls of buildings.
Yeah, he would
without actually collapsing the building on top of him. I'm sure
Right.
if he went straight in, there's a chance the roof and everything would fall and he would kind of get stuck in the rubble.
Exactly. But he would scrape down the side wall with half the bucket. And it would just destroy the structural integrity of the entire building. And he could still, make a left or a right and get away from the rubble. It's pretty smart. He thought about this for a while, man.
He didn't think about the one weakness of that plan, which is basements, which would be the final stop was a building with a basement.
Right.
But for now, he had many more buildings to destroy. And so Mountain Parks Electric was destroyed. As far as I could tell, the cop was still riding on top as he destroyed the electric building because he said that he finally jumped down afterwards when Marv was headed towards Town Hall. Yeah, you heard me. Town Hall would be his next stop on this destruction
most likely
path.
a brick building. That dude was like, yeah, this is my stop. I'm getting the hell off of this.
Right. So, yeah, after destroying Mountain Parks Electric's building, Marv headed down for Town Hall, and they already knew. The police are now putting back, they're using reverse 911 emergency system to call all the businesses and everything, and now they're calling Town Hall, letting them know that this fucking tank basically is heading towards their building to evacuate because there was a community library attached to the town hall in which kids and other people were present minutes before Marv arrived. So they had to get everyone the hell out of there, in which he proceeded to decimate town hall, including the outdoor children's playground, which is, you can see pictures of just mangled piping and tubing of what used to be a playground, just kind of sad. And he just absolutely wrecked town hall, where he'd had so many frustrating moments where he felt like the whole town hall was out to get him and working against him all the time. I wonder which one of these was the most satisfying for him. Probably the concrete plant, right? Just that was like his direct enemy.
Definitely Cody's. Yeah, everything else was bonus. As long as he got to destroy Cody's concrete factory, I think he was good.
Yeah. By now, police are completely surrounding the dozer on foot and in cars. They're basically trekking alongside him with shotguns and all these things that are useless against this thing, and just kind of trying to figure out anything they can do. But there was nothing they can do, so just along for the ride, watching him and having no way of stopping him. Marv's next target would be Sky High News, the office of the local newspaper writer Patrick Brower, who we'd mentioned, who wouldn't give him the press he thought he deserved. The dozer plowed right into the building over and over, and this is a building that actually completely collapsed. Like the roof, everything collapsed on this building. He destroyed it so bad.
Oh my gosh,
the one thing that I thought that was interesting, everybody they interviewed that remembers this day that was there says the number one thing that they still can hear in their head is the metal tracks. It is very reminiscent of war, the screeching of those metal tracks on concrete.
Right.
So that was like the first thing they said. I still remember those tracks, which is why I'm sure they named the documentary Tread.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, and plus the snowmobiles too. It's a little bit of there's tread everywhere in this guy's life. He's getting tread on. Don't tread on him. There's a lot of tread going on.
Go. Of course, you can't have a rampage in Granby without the Harris or the Thompsons being on the list. The Thompson legacy family, the owners of the excavation company, who he hated so much. I think the Thompsons were really what he aspired to be. They talked a lot about this because they seemed like they were interviewed in this documentary throughout the whole thing, and they just really seemed like guys that would be hard to hate. They just so easygoing. Like one of them collected die-cast toys. They were just everyday hardworking guys that just, they're sitting there like, I don't know why I hated us. They just
hated us.
Yeah, if you gotta watch it because the Thompsons are just like they really seem easygoing. And what they said is I think he hated us because he wanted to be basically us. We were very successful businessmen in this town, and that's what he wanted to be. But
he wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to be in. and he'd already ruined that. And then now he has too much pride. He wasn't a can't beat him, join him type of fella. He was more of a can't beat him, keep
destroy him with a bulldozer.
Just till they're destroyed. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Thelma Thompson was asleep in her bed only 30 minutes before Marv arrived and leveled her home, as well as several structures and tractor trailers on the Thompsons' property. He flipped over a tractor trailer that was there. He took a truck, like a pickup truck, and shoved it through one of their rental buildings. Like, literally pushed it inside the building. It just went around methodically wrecking their whole property, the Thompsons. By now, residents had gathered up on a hill and were watching the Thompsons' property be destroyed. It was become like a local entertainment venue now.
Oh,
They're sitting up there like it's a concert watching.
How could you look away?
I know. Of course you would.
Dude,
I was watching. See this.
I was watching some news video of the wreckage, and my son came in here, and before I know it, he's just standing behind me watching the entire thing. I was like,
right? It's just fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It's so strange to see in living color. Like the video of this, it looks like they're filming a movie. You know, like Steven Spielberg's in town and they're filming some shit.
Yeah.
It just looks fake. This giant rolling fucking tank going through a town and just destroying everything, and no one can stop it.
Yeah, it really does.
Marvin then headed for another utility company, the Independent Gas Company. On their site, there were many large industrial-sized propane tanks, which were full and surely part of Marv's plan. I think this was, really like this grand plan. He was going to blow these things up and just wreak havoc on the entire town. And what's sad is, like, really close by to this gas company was a trailer park with, many residents and an old folks home. There was a retirement center really close by, close enough that if he had destroyed these propane tanks, they definitely could have hurt a lot of people over there.
Right.
And so he enters the propane plant, and the police are freaking out at this point. They're calling over their radios for everyone to stay at least 1,000 feet back because they know what he's trying to do. He positions his dozer on a small hill near the propane tanks and begins firing incendiary rounds towards, what he thought was towards them, but he actually, luckily for everyone involved, the ripper on the dozer was kind of in the way, like it was digging down and it was blocking the port where the rifle was with the incendiary rounds, and so every time he was shooting, it was striking his own armor, and they were basically exploding, right. And you could see the smoke coming out, and
Good.
So
that was God telling him that was too far, Marv.
Right, Marv, too much.
God had to step
in
there.
You're going to kill children and old people now, Marv.
Jesus, Marv.
Not your enemies.
Calm your ass down.
Yeah. So he kind of gives up on the whole propane tank idea, and that was really, thank God that didn't happen. Who knows what? Because, there were so many of these massive, massive propane tanks all over the place. You blow one up, they're all going to go. Who knows what the fuck happens?
Yeah, it's a chain reaction. Who knows how far the shrapnel goes. Yeah, it'd be bad.
Yeah. And so as he's pulling out of the gas company, the police had now gone to new lengths. They had talked to a local construction company, and they'd gotten their biggest scraper, which is if those big scrapers are a massive fucking vehicles. Right. It was actually probably like twice the size of the dozer, like in length for sure. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like it looks like a big Caterpillar.
But probably not in weight. I'm going to go out.
No, definitely not in weight. Definitely not. And you see that
that's where
because... Yeah, because this big scraper met the tank, and we have this face-off at the top of the hill leaving the gas company, and it kind of blocks the path. It's actually smart, though, driver of this scraper, the way he did this. He sat right at the top of this little hill where he had traction. He was sitting on pavement while the dozer was going up a dirt hill, and he met him to where he had his best chance. He's got the high point. Mm-hmm. He's got elevation on his side, and then he's got traction on his side. But it doesn't fucking matter because this killdozer just pushes him right out of the way like it's a hot knife through butter, blasts him backwards, and is on his way back on the main highway again, and headed now towards the Gamble store owned by Casey Farrell, the town council guy who had voted in favor of the concrete batch company being put into existence.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, and this would spell the end for the Killdozer's rampage. Gamble's would end up getting the best of old Marvin in the end. Right as the dozer was reaching the strip of businesses, which included Gamble's, two problems arose as Heemeyer destroyed this section of businesses, starting with the copycat printing company was right on the end of this strip of businesses, including Gamble's, took out the front of the printing company. But as he was approaching these buildings, you see a big puff of white steam and smoke.
Yes.
And it was essentially the radiator. Something had blown, and there was radiator fluid leaking all over the hot components of the engine in this thing. So it's going to start losing power now because it has no way of staying cool.
That's right.
It's going to overheat.
Quick.
Yeah. So that happens as it's approaching these buildings. It starts losing power as it's taking out the buildings. It's taking the wall out of the side of Gamble's. And as we had mentioned, a basement was not considered. A lot of people didn't know that the Gamble's store had a basement. And I'm sure that Marvin didn't, because if he did, he wouldn't have drove into the inside. He drove kind of through the sidewall and into the store, which collapsed the floor and sending one of the tracks into the basement and putting the dozer on a tilt to where it had no way of gaining any traction with its tracks, and it was stuck there. So he's finally stuck. He's trying to back. He's trying to go forward, and nothing's happening. Now the police kind of tentatively stay back, knowing that he knows this is the end. What's he got planned now? Is he going to start firing out? Is it going to be a gunfight? Does he have a way out? Is he going to jump out and start shooting at us? Is he going to blow something up? Who knows? They're kind of tentatively staying back. And about 1 minute later, one of the SWAT team members who had swarmed around the machine reported hearing a single gunshot from inside the sealed cab. And it would later be determined that Marvin Heemeyer had shot himself in the head with a .357 caliber handgun, finally ending this insane rampage, which would end up lasting for 2 hours and 7 minutes, damaging 13 buildings, and was an estimated damage cost of about $7 million.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But you know what? Just insurance is going to pay for it. They're really the only ones that pay.
Yeah.
Here. It's
That's true. I mean,
he thinks
it's
that he
gonna
hurt
take a
all
while,
these
but
people, but he really didn't. He would have hurt Cody a lot more just making him pay the $375 for his property and going on living his life. He really didn't hurt any of these people, I really don't think. I mean, he didn't hurt anyone physically, except for maybe that cop that rode on top for a while. That guy probably had a few bruises. Didn't he ride through a building?
But he had a badass. More than anything, I guarantee you he would do it again. Because, dude, just I would have that picture blown up and put on my wall of me riding on top of that fucking thing.
Oh my gosh!
And the stories you get to tell your kids, like, yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Everyone
he's
knows
the real
about
winner.
the Killdozer. I was the guy that rode on top of it.
He's the real winner in this story.
Yeah, definitely that cop. Glenn was his name.
Glenn.
Old Glenn.
Way to
Of
go,
course his
Glenn.
name was Glenn. As much as Marv's are sneaky, Glenn's are fucking heroic usually.
Right? We'll entitle this one The Heroic Story of Glenn.
This is really a story of Glenn's and Marvin's. You know.
That's right. Glenn was born. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, let's get into Glenn.
He shares a birthday with. No.
Yeah. So police, it took them quite a while to even get into this thing. First, they tried using explosives in an attempt to remove the steel plates, but after the third explosion failed, they cut through them with something we've used quite often, an oxygen acetylene cutting torch.
Oh yeah, that'll do
which
it.
is I'm sure what in large part he used to build the plates in the correct shapes and stuff. Those torches will cut through just about anything.
Yep.
And so they actually didn't gain entry until the next day, and they didn't remove the body until 2 a.m. on June 5th. When they discovered him in there with a single gunshot wound. He had put the 38 in the roof of his mouth and pulled the trigger.
I think it was a 357.
357. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good sized caliber there.
Yeah, that'll do it, man.
And the fate of the bulldozer was one part that I thought was kind of funny in the documentary. Is the Thompsons? They were like, I was pissed that they cut that thing up and got rid of it. We should have made a museum out of that thing. We would have made this town a whole lot of money. The Thompsons
Seriously?
always trying to make money.
It would have though. Imagine having that.
That'd be a hell of a tour. That'd be a reason to go see the Granby, this small town in Colorado. To go see the Killdozer.
Hell yeah, that would be a reason. Boost their economy.
They looked at it the opposite. They didn't want to bring attraction to this event. They cut it up intentionally. Yeah, right. It's kind of like Bonnie and Clyde's car almost.
Yeah, you're gonna get it regardless. You might as well just embrace it, right? I mean, nobody would know about your town otherwise. It's kind of like that little town that Ed Gein's from, right?
Yeah,
up in Wisconsin. It's like nobody would
Plainfield,
know.
I think.
Yeah,
Plainfield?
nobody would know it otherwise.
Yep. Yeah. Ooh, what a fun one though. Old
That was
Marvin,
super
he is
fun,
kind of a folk hero in a lot of circles.
I can see it. I can see it. I understand why.
A lot of the "Don't Tread on Me" folks with the snake tattoos and stickers on their truck and the giant American flags. They're big fans of old Marvin. If you go into comments, like if you go to just like YouTube videos about this or like any articles, it's very heavily in favor of Marv. Like, this guy's a true American hero. Blah blah blah.
Right.
I tend to not see it that way. I think you're acting out like a child, and you could have gotten people killed, and and luckily no one did get killed. You know, if he'd
Right.
blown up those propane tanks, there definitely would have been people harmed, if not killed.
Right.
He almost shot a police officer in the head. He shot at Cody Dochev, which I know he hated him, but still, like, you had some beef with the guy, but the guy never did anything to harm you physically. You know, like it's a kind of a spoiled man lashing out. You know, I get he felt cornered, and you know what, but you had options. He had the chance to sell his property, make a huge profit, and he could have got the fuck out of this town.
He could have.
But he viewed it as he had wasted 13 years of his life building this business and then took it away from him.
Right,
But he
and
should have connected to city utilities from the start, and it would have made everything a lot better.
Right, and it's not like this man didn't have experience building this businesses, because he had businesses and muffler shops all over Colorado. He could have went anywhere. He could have went to
Good point.
Boulder. He could have went to Denver. He could have went anywhere and still lived in Colorado. He had the means. He had the money. He had the experience. He just got his feelings hurt, and he wanted to stand his ground. And this is what happened. I mean, that's how I summarize it, man.
I agree 100%. I think you nailed it. That was a good point we didn't bring up, is that he did have successful muffler shops in other parts of Colorado.
Yep.
He had options. He was doing well. He got too ingrained in the idea that everyone was out to get him.
That's right.
And let his ego get the best of him.
Yep, and paranoia too. And I think spending the more angry and the more obsessed he got with this, probably the more time he spent alone. And we all know that's a dangerous thing to do. When you spend a lot of time alone in your own head, things can get a little scary. Not that you should never. You definitely should sometimes. But spending all that time and you're the only one telling you that you're right or you're wrong,
you know what? And
dangerous.
they interviewed his best friend in the documentary, and that's one thing his best friend said, is that I think he was just alone too much. You know, I think near the end he just got in his own head.
Yep.
So
I agree 100%.
Kind of sucks. All right, so we do some talk about why we smell so good in our armpits.
Let's do it, man. I bet old Marv wishes he had some Oh My Gaia in that tank, man. I bet he was sweating bullets up in there.
I hope he did, or else it would have been not pretty.
No, it would not have. Yeah, he should have had old Oh My Gaia. You guys don't know what Oh My Gaia is. Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. Guys, there are tons of scents to choose from vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk. It's one of my favorites. It's what I'm wearing today. Coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside. We have our very own scent, of course, True Crime Pine, which we're quite proud of. Probably a top seller. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but it probably is. Right, Lauren? Wouldn't you say?
It better be.
It better
That's all
be.
I'm saying.
But if you
It's got
guys
our logo
want
on
to
it,
try
and
this,
it smells fantastic.
right? If you guys want to try this, you can get 15% off your order because you are a True Crime Guys listener. If you use the code word CREEPER, CREEPER, you can get 15% off at ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram.
Right on. I want to take a minute to thank everybody who's gone and rated and reviewed on iTunes. Give some people some shout outs. They're still rolling in all those 5 stars. So you know, if you don't want to write anything, you can always just go click 5 stars and then put some fire emojis in, and then you'll get the shout out. If you just click 5 stars, that's cool, but you don't get a shout out because we don't know, it doesn't show your name or anything.
Right.
If you do want to write a review, we read those usually on the crapper. So we do appreciate that. That's always nice. It's always good
That's
material.
Right. It is.
You know, our dads used to read newspapers. We read iTunes reviews.
That's right.
So,
we do.
I want to thank Brock318, said awesome podcast, 5 stars. AZ Angela said my fave, 5 stars with some fire emojis.
Weird.
Those are both in the U.S. Then we got Case File Fan in Great Britain said 2 of my favorite creepers, 5 stars.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Case
I
File,
want to
great
say what's up
podcast
to
as well.
Yeah. ECA123 in the U.S. said love True Crime Guys, 5 stars. Thank you. Jessica Jones, MCU1 in the U.S. best outro ever.
Word.
5 stars. Thank you. She said, if you clicked on us because you thought we was True Crime Garage, laugh out loud. That is a great outro.
I haven't come up with anything better, or I would change it. I'm sorry, guys.
No, never change it. Why would you? It's perfection. Kimberly4991 in the U.S. said, fire emoji, 5 stars. Thank you. X Ilish X in the U.S., 5 stars. Excellent. Thank you. We got Willow River 1315 over in Great Britain. Said great podcast, 5 stars. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Gavin Thor Sloan in the U.S. Fire emoji 100 emoji, 5
Word.
stars. Thank you. Amanda Green in Vegas. So excited to find a local podcast. Great jobs. I just started from the beginning. Thank you.
Awesome.
Let's see. Bottle Wipe in Australia. Down under, mate.
The bottle wipe.
Fire emojis, 5 stars. Been subscribed to Patreon for 1.5 years. Would definitely recommend. Thank you. That's awesome. A creeper down under.
Hell yeah.
Patreon member. That's what's up. JFlub75 in the U.S. said keep them coming. 5 stars. Thank you. Gromit06 from Australia. Down under.
Nice.
Long time listener, first time reviewer. Thank you. Another one in Australia. PJ Bro 5. Jovial, but not in exchange for case detail. 5 stars. Thank you.
Hey, that's fair enough right there. I like that review.
Right. Crime Creeper 1976 in the U.S. said Amazeballs. 5 stars. Thank you. IUJHUJN in the U.S. Love them. 5 stars. Thank you. JRN 763. 5 stars. Thank you. Also in the U.S. And then Teacher Chick 43. 5 stars. U.S. Thank you. Ardent Armadillo. Sorry, guys. It's been a few weeks since we did an episode, and we don't want to miss anybody.
Right.
Ardent Armadillo in the U.S. Great job. 5 stars. Bob in Fort Wayne. 5 stars. Great
Bob.
podcast. Fire emojis. Thank you. Faith 2016 said love true crime. 5 stars. Road Dog 1234 in the U.S. said 5 stars. And then the last one, Detroit Wingman in Canada. What's up, guys? The Hat of America. A little bit of everything. 5 stars. Thank you, guys.
Hell yeah.
So much, guys and girls.
Thank you.
And everybody.
Everyone who
Appreciate
reviews.
it.
We appreciate that
Yes.
very much. Best way to help the show if you're not a patron,
Right.
you know? But best paired with being a patron, though, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. It goes like cheese and wine. It's
Right,
fantastic.
that's right. Patreon.com/truecrimeguys. $2 a month, guys. Gets you tons of extra content. Tons
Yeah,
of
buddy.
it. We just released
buddy.
one on Johnny Gosh. Very
Oh,
interesting
man.
case.
Yeah.
Talk about a tangled web.
Holy
That's
moly.
a tangled web.
Holy moly.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, don't forget our merch stores too. We never plug these, but redbubble.com/ you can search True Crime Guys, or there's links to our gear at the bottom of every episode. There's a Redbubble store. There's a Galaxy Gear link at the bottom of the description. You guys can click there, do a little shopping. You can get all kinds of stickers there. You know, if Lauren's taking too long or whatever, you're like, fuck him, I'm getting my own stickers. You can go there and get your own stickers.
I was just about to mention that I'm going to be sending out the very prestigious Gold Star stickers to the $5 patrons.
Yeah, there's only one
today,
place you can
so-
get those, and that's got to come straight from Lauren's hands. So
Yeah.
you got to
So
wait
if
on
you
those.
if you want to be a part of the elite, you know, the 1%ers, the $5 a month gold sticker, you
Yeah.
get the gold creep van. Only a select few people in the world have
prestigious.
those.
That's the very
They're going
first
out.
design we ever made. We were like, God, we got to figure out something, dude. And somebody said something about a creep van, or we said something about a creep van in our first like Randy Kraft episode or something. We just noticed the vans, and we just haven't been able to
Top
get
that,
rid of the
man.
van.
It's perfection. It's like your outro, you know?
Right. We just
Why mess with it?
it's an awesome sticker. It's an awesome sticker. But also on social media, guys, at True Crime Guys. You can follow us Instagram,
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, True Crime Guys Closed Group on Facebook.
Yeah, if you guys post like a screen cap of you listening to our show on Instagram, pretty much every single time we put it in our story. So
Yes.
we always love that. It's like free advertising, you know.
That
letting
helps
us know
our
you
show.
guys are listening.
Yeah.
Letting other people know you're listening, and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm listening too. That's cool. Yeah, so
Exactly.
you know, it's a party.
Exactly. We appreciate that very much, guys. Anytime you post or share about the show, it means a lot. We see all that stuff, even though we don't have time to reply to every single thing or reply to everybody, but we see that stuff and we really appreciate it.
Yep. All right, guys, that's enough.
That's
We'll
it.
see you next week for another freebie. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder, get murder, get murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.